Please go ahead, sir.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Illness to Wellness webinar. This is a series of webinars in which we create awareness about health issues, about medical issues, and especially in these times of pandemic of COVID, there are a lot of problems which are coming up and in which we need advice from the experts, from the medical experts. And thanks to SHN, we've been organizing these webinars and bringing out topics of interest to public and discussing the pertinent and the relevant issues these days. Today's topic that we're going to discuss is very important, and we have, I would say, a galaxy of stars in the field of medicine in our country who are going to enlighten us about not a problem actually, about a solution that we have got for the pandemic of COVID, how to fight with it and how to live a healthy and safe life despite this pandemic. So the topic today is vocal for COVID vaccination, experiences of medical experts. We know that the vaccination drive was started in our country on 16th of January. It is one of the biggest vaccination drive all over the world, and we've been doing it very successfully thanks to the arrangements made by the government of India and participation of all the doctors and all the personnel. But still, there are a lot of apprehensions, there are some doubts, or there's some questions in the mind of the general public about who should take the vaccine, who should not take the vaccine. In the first phase, we know that healthcare workers have been given the vaccine, or the frontline workers have been given the vaccine. Now, the second phase has started, and people from 45 to 60 years of age or above 60 years of age without comorbidities, but from 45 to 60 years of age with some other disease are being given vaccine. So more and more public is being exposed to vaccine, and more people are now able to get the benefit of vaccine. So today we are going to discuss all these issues pertinent to vaccination, किसको लगवानी चाहिए, कैसे लगवानी चाहिए, क्या फायदे हो सकते हैं, होंगे. So for that, we have, as I said earlier, we have a galaxy of experts from our country. First, I would like to welcome Dr. Khildani sir. Welcome, sir. He is the chairman of PSRI Institute of Pulmonary Critical Care and Sleep Medicine, having 41 years, more than 41 years of experience in this field. He was also head and professor of Department of Pulmonary Medicine and Sleep Disorders in AIIMS. He is having expertise in pulmonary and critical care medicine and sleep medicine. He did fellowship in critical care from Mount Sinai Medical School, New York, USA. He is the chairman of Credential Committee of Indian Society of Critical Care and Medicine and member governing body of Indian Chest Society, and he was vice president of National College of Chest Physicians from 2007 to 2009. President for 2 terms of National College of Chest Physicians from 2011 to 2013, Chairman Credential Committee of Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine 2011 to 2013, and member of Council of Regions for 7 years of American College of Chest Physicians. Member Executive Council of India of Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine from 2008 to 2010, and member governing body of Indian Chest Society 2015 to 2017. He is also senior editor of Critical Care Lung India and member of many editorial boards like Journal of Critical Care Medicine, Indian Journals of Chest Medicine, and Allied Sciences in India. Thank you for sparing time and joining us, Dr. Khildani. We wish to welcome you again, and I'm welcoming you on behalf of SOCHM and on behalf of Shri Anil Rajputji, who is the chairman of the CSR committee of SOCHM. Unfortunately, due to his busy schedule, he could not join us today. Otherwise, he's always present in this webinar with us. So on behalf of SOCHM and Shri Anil Rajputji, also welcome you, sir. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Soumitra Rawat. He is MBBS, MS, FRCS Edinburgh and Glasgow, and FRCS England, FRCS Intercollegiate, and CCS UK. He's been awarded Padma Shri by the President of India. He's chairman, head surgical gastroenterology and liver transplant, Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi, and member court of examiner, Royal College of Surgeons of England. Dr. Soumitra Rawat was born on 23rd September 1965. He did his medical graduation in 1987 from the prestigious Maula Azad Medical College, New Delhi, followed by Master of Surgery from the same institution in 1995. He went to England for higher super specialty training, where he was extensively trained in world-class centers. He was subsequently appointed consultant and an honorary consultant surgeon at Glasgow Royal Infirmary, East Cheshire NHS Trust, and Christie Hospital, respectively. These are internationally recognized centers of excellence. Dr. Rawat has an impressive list of fellowships, which includes FRCS Glasgow, FRCS Edinburgh, FRCS England, and FRCS Intercollegiate. After a very distinguished career in UK, Dr. Rawat returned to his country in 2012. Dr. Rawat is currently the chairman and head department of surgical gastroenterology and liver transplant at department at Sir Gangaram Hospital. This department is one of the largest and among the best in the country and a major one internationally. He is also serving as honorary consultant surgeon at Christie's NHS Foundation Hospital, Manchester, UK. For his distinguished work, he was appointed member Court of Examiner, Royal College of Surgeons of England. Dr. Rawat is pioneer in bringing up laparoscopic and robotic surgery for GI cancer in Sir Gangaram Hospital. He and his team have performed the first robotic hepatical jejunostomy in India and first low anterior resection in North India, and among the first to perform robotic and laparoscopic esophagectomy in North India with excellent results. He also developed enhanced recovery program for cancer surgery. Dr. Rawat is passionate towards teaching. He is a trainer in laparoscopic surgery for Royal College of Surgeons of England and has trained surgeons all around the world. He was surgical tutor of Royal College of Surgeons of England. He has been faculty and convener for various skilled courses of Royal College of Surgeons of England. He was examiner for medical students at University of Leeds, undergraduate trainer for University of Leeds, Glasgow and Manchester, and postgraduate trainer for Glasgow and Liverpool. He is examiner, counselor, coordinator, and accreditor for National Board of Examiners. So welcome again, Dr. Soumitra Rawat. Thank you for joining us and sparing time to be with us. Now I would give a brief introduction of Professor Rajendra K. Dhameja. He is an Australian trained neurologist. He has more than 2 decades of neurology experience, including 3 years in Australia. He established neurology department and is presently director, professor, and head of department of neurology at Lady Hardinge Medical College and SSK Hospital. He had a certificate of completion of specialist training from Royal College of Physicians, London in 2005 and was awarded FRCP London in 2007. He worked as neurology fellow at Austin Hospital, Melbourne, Australia from 2006 to 2009. He was awarded and was also awarded Commonwealth Academic. Also awarded College Staff Fellowship in Neurology in 2000 and WHO Fellowship in Epidemiology twice in 2004 and 2010. Dhameja was additional personal physician to the Honorable Prime Minister of India from 2000 to 2004. He was also awarded 33rd S. Radhakrishnan Memorial National Medical Teacher Award in 2017. He is recipient of Dr. B.C. Bansal Upma Bansal Oration in 2019 for his contribution to medical sciences in India. He was also awarded Rotary Group Exchange Educational Award and spent 3 months in the Sweden visiting hospitals in the country. He is also an advisor for Royal College of Physicians, London, and has been invited to present his research and lecture at several international meetings in USA, Canada, Japan, Australia, Thailand, Morocco, Malaysia, Cameroon, and Bhutan. He is also the chair of movement disorders at World Federation of Neurorehabilitation. He is WHO expert in Parkinson's disease rehabilitation. He has over 109 peer-reviewed publication and book chapters to his credit. There's a long list of achievements of Dr. Dhameja about the social work that he's doing, about the work on awareness of diseases that he's doing, about his lectures in the national media, and his constant publication of editorials in national dailies about creating awareness on health issues, and now he's also involved in creating awareness about COVID-19. So welcome, Professor Rajendra K. Dhamija, and thank you also once again for sparing time and being with us. Thank you so much, honored panelists. I would like to start our discussion, our today's discussion, with a small request to all of you. Kindly share your experience of vaccination, when you got your vaccination, the first and the second dose, and what you saw in the hospital, and how you yourself felt when you took the vaccination. Let's start with Dr. Khilani.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kesari, and thank you to SSM, eminent organization, for bringing me again. There are two things: one is evidence, and one is experience. So, of course, we all know vaccination seems to be the only solution to the control or the eradication of pandemic, and I need not be uh, telling you the data. But if you talk about the personal experience, I was one of the first few to get the vaccine along with my wife. I got Covishield vaccine at the government of Delhi. We know that 2 to 5% of the people getting Covaxin would get some local pain and would get some amount of maybe feverish feeling or feeling cold or headache or myalgia. As far as Covishield is concerned, it is about the same. If you talk, if since categorically asked for my experience when I got the first vaccine, first dose, I actually had to think, lagi bhi hai kya? Matlab, the pain was so less that I had to press it to find out that I got it. 4 hours later, since I was working, I did swallow paracetamol. There was no pain or something. Next day, I kept on working. But when I took the second dose, which was after almost 32 days after the first dose, after that, several hours later, I did feel little fatigue and little malaise. So I required. Second day, my wife said, "You are not looking well." It was a Sunday, so she was kind enough to give me some rest, and I took 2 tablets of Crocin, but there was no fever whatsoever. But a little bit of malaise and fatigue I felt. Since you asked, so I'm sharing. And since I, as a physician, people keep contacting me, and I have several experience of several people. So far, I have not come across anybody who has been incapacitated with after the vaccine so as to require off from work. Majority of doctors have been, continue to work. Majority of people who are actively working, they never had to go back to home to take rest. As far as the allergic reaction is concerned, I have not come across about hundreds of people that I am in touch with on the vaccine. Nobody has had any allergic reaction. Patients with on blood thinners like aspirin and clopidogrel, patients who have been on steroids, patients with sarcoidosis, patients with interstitial lung diseases, all have been advised and now are receiving vaccination. Other observation that I have is that second day of vaccination, as it started among healthcare workers, there was severe hesitancy on the part of doctors and healthcare workers. I'm aware that at centers, not even 10% people turned up for vaccination. And that hesitancy continued for a week or so, and after that, it became normal. Presently, my impression is that people are trying to apply pressure so that they get vaccine as fast as they can. They are approaching various. Other thing that this COVID app initially was not user friendly, and it was difficult to get an appointment, or it was too crowded. That also has been smoothened out. Finally, what impression? I work for a private hospital, so I'll not talk about that. People who have gone to government hospital have been actually very excited about the immaculate arrangement that government has made. It is not only the physical arrangement, it is also the courtesy with which they are being dealt with. And I'm not exaggerating anything. People have come to me and tell me that We didn't expect that in government centers it will be such a fine arrangement. And some elderly who even did not get registered, they went to the center and they registered them, and within 45 minutes, they finished everything and they were out with the vaccine. So I'm giving a positive note. I'm giving a positive note because with the kind of spurt that we are seeing in Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Karnataka, and other states, and Delhi is also, have gone to 400 plus cases. To my mind, vaccination is the only solution, and with so many vaccines in pipeline, including the single dose vaccine, we are going to have more and more vaccines. The future is bright, but it's going to take some time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, Dr. Dhamija, let's also be vocal for COVID vaccination. How would you relate your experience?
Thank you, Dr. Kesri, and thank you, SHM, for having me. Once again, this is my third webinar with SHM in last 3-4 months. Most of it has been the COVID and COVID vaccination. So I'm very pleased to be here, once again sharing my experience and thoughts with the larger audience. And I'm happy to tell that I was the very first few people who got the vaccination. Again, the Covishield from the government setup. And it was fantastic experience. I was the doctor checked my blood pressure and then asked me a few questions and then gave me the injection, which absolutely scored without any pain or without any hassles. So we waited for half an hour and then I had my lunch and started my work again in my hospital. It was so smooth and so refreshing and so satisfying to see that arrangement and that the vaccination process being handled in a government facility. So it was very nice experience, and same thing goes for the others also, my faculty members, my colleagues who have been getting vaccinations. And now the people have been coming to me with neurological illnesses like Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, and all these people have been asking me to get vaccination, not to get vaccination, and how to go about it. So we have been advising that everyone with a pre-existing disease, whether it is epilepsy or Parkinson or multiple sclerosis or other neurological illnesses, should go and get them vaccinated because they are at a higher risk of getting the infection. And risk and benefit, if you compare, is much more favorable towards the benefit of the vaccine. The minor risk which Dr. Khilrani developed, something like allergic reaction or pain at the local site or mild fever initial day or in a day or two, that can happen with any vaccination or any such kind of preventive aspect of a disease. So obviously, very, very minor things and we should not be worrying about this. In addition to that, I'm also the member of the Adverse Event Following Immunization Committee for vaccine, this COVID vaccination, and we are monitoring the people who have been being vaccinated. So far, I have not come across any major event following this immunization or this vaccination. So I can assure your viewers and attendees that no, so far there has been no major untoward incident following this vaccination, and there are minor things which can happen in 2% of people, and that happens with all the vaccines. So the vaccine is safe. That is one thing for sure. Both the vaccine, Covaxin and Covishield, which are being given in India, are absolutely safe, and there is no doubt about it. Regarding the efficacy, the Covaxin was introduced as an emergency authorization in the clinical trial mode, as we all know, and that results have also come up for phase 3 trials published in Lancet Infectious Disease last week, and that also shows 81% efficacy in their trials. So obviously, the government is thinking of withdrawing now the clinical trial mode so that the Covishield or Covaxin, they are given as an emergency authorization approvals. Same, both of them, both the vaccine have the same platform. So there is no need for now to worry about the efficacy also. The safety profile is very good, excellent. So there is no worry at all, and the people should come forward, whether they have a pre-existing illness with 45 years of age, above 45, or people more than 60 years of age. Having said that, now we are moving towards the second wave or this upsurge as we described or we listened just now, whether it is Delhi, Maharashtra, Kerala, or Punjab, or Chhattisgarh, or Madhya Pradesh. These states are having more than 80% of the infections as of now. And as if you remember, initial also, this trajectory of the pandemics have been like this. On the first wave, starting from the March, it all came from Kerala, then Maharashtra, in the urban slums of Maharashtra like Dharavi, then came to Delhi, and then in the Delhi slums, and then it went on to the other metropolitan cities, Tamil Nadu and Chennai, Bangalore, and then on to the second tier cities like Kanpur, Jaipur, all these cities. So that was the trajectory of the first wave, and I wrote in 25th of June in national editorial that we are going to have multiple waves, not only the one wave, and we need to prepare ourselves and our health system for the subsequent waves, and that's what we are happening now. And we are seeing it, and we are on the verge of now this surge of second wave. Delhi having 409 cases yesterday, and with increasing positivity. And you know that all these are indicators that we should be careful and we should get vaccinations. In fact, I wrote last week in Hindustan Times as an editorial page that we should now focus on the states which are having more infections. So there is wide variations between states in India. So India is a big country, a subcontinent, and we have different states with different rates of infections, like Maharashtra or Kerala or Delhi. These states should have a priority in vaccination. And I believe that we should all now think about vaccinating all people in these states so that we can arrest this spread of pandemic of the virus. So we cannot change the we cannot let the virus change us. We have to change the virus. We have to get ahead of the virus and keep our population protected by vaccination. So the protection is very, very important, and that is, the vaccination is given as a protection. It's not a treatment; it's a prophylaxis. So there is a difference between treating a patient and preventing a patient from getting a disease. So obviously, we need to protect our population, and that is the only way to end this pandemic. And lastly, in my mind, this will be the first pandemic in the human history which will be terminated by the vaccine. So we need to vaccine. We need to talk about the vaccine. We need to be vocal for COVID vaccination, as your theme of your today's webinar says. And we need to aggressively and proactively push this vaccination campaign, which is the world's largest vaccination campaign in India. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Dhameja. I'd like to come to you, sir, Dr. Soumit Rawat. And I would once again here reiterate, in one of our programs, which was, I think, more than 3 months back, you were the first person in this whole series who started the discussion of on the topic of vaccination, and you elaborated very well even in that discussion about the gastrointestinal diseases, about vaccination. So, sir, what has been your personal experience during vaccination? What did you feel, and what would you like to convey to our viewers?
Thank you, Dr. Kesri, for inviting me. And I had a wonderful experience. I had both the shots of vaccine, and it was given at Sir Gangaram Hospital, where I'm working. And I must say that, I was in UK for 17 years. So I used to have a flu vaccine every year in UK. It was given to me. And experience here is absolutely at par, from UK. And personally, I didn't have any significant side effect of the vaccine. And I think I'm the only surgeon in your panel. Both the other esteemed members are physicians, and surgeons are slightly sturdier. So, I carried on doing my normal work, and I even did my surgery after vaccination. I think the only mild effect I had was the fatigue. I didn't have any fever. There was no pain at the injection site. I didn't have any headache or any other symptoms. In both the vaccines, it was uneventful, and it was great. I think, as my other colleagues have said, that we need to be vocal for vaccine. And the sooner we have the vaccine covering nearly half of the population, that is where the crunch is going to be. And I think government is doing good. They are aiming to have 50 crore population vaccinated by July this year. So it is very important. We have talked about 2.5 crores at the moment. So there is a long way to go. And as Dr. Dhameja also mentioned, that we are on the verge of a second wave. We had 9,000 cases on 9th of February, and there has been a steady rise of cases in India, in last 4 weeks. And now the cases are more than 23,000. So obviously we need to be proactive, and all the three things, even after vaccination, I am taking care of good hand hygiene, good respiratory hygiene, and good social hygiene. This we need to carry on even after vaccination. And as a as a proud citizen of India, we need to make sure that we do whatsoever in our role as a doctor to convince the public to take the vaccination so that we reach the level which is required to stop this pandemic.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dr. Khilani, I would like to come to you, sir, and ask you this question because many people, like we've already discussed, and all of you have mentioned that there's a resurgence of COVID. So at times people get this doubt that even though so many people have been vaccinated, we know that more than 2.5 crores vaccinations have already been done in our country. So why is it that despite so many vaccinations, the number of cases are going up? What is the reason for that, sir?
So we should understand the immunity imparted by vaccine. When we say efficacy of 90% or 80% or 60%, that is on one side. Second is that optimum immunity comes after 2 weeks of the second injection. So actually, if you talk about immunity related to vaccine, there are only few people who are actually immune because of vaccination. Now, this increase in the number of cases is the natural cycle of COVID virus. It has nothing to do with vaccination. Vaccination is yet to have any effect on the incidence of COVID. What has happened, and if you recollect, since we are all living in Delhi, we saw a definite spurt during post Diwali, because Diwali people started meeting. It is a social event, it's a big event. People forgot about Corona altogether, and we saw a definite spurt of COVID after that. Similarly, as the numbers went down, especially in northern India, if you go to Delhi to malls or shops or the roads, again the roadblocks are there. The traffic is as usual. People, even if they are carrying their mask, it is around their neck rather than their face and nose. Social distancing has gone to dogs. If there are some other changes that we don't know, weather changes and all, as the normal viral cycle occurs, that I am not aware of, and I am not competent to talk about it. But to my mind, this is, and also that 56% zero positivity that we saw in Delhi, as per the study done by government of Delhi. The Delhi has a floating population. People come not only from all over the country, people come from all over the world. And since I do treat COVID patients, so I am aware that quite a large number of patients have brought COVID to Delhi from out of the country, like Dubai and other countries, and also from other cities. So the summarizing it, that one of the reason is of COVID is that still a large population is virgin; they are not immune. Vaccine, of course, has had no effect on. It will, as Dr. Rawat said, unless you vaccinate 30 crore people of India, you are not going to have any effect of incidence of COVID is concerned. There is a large population which is still susceptible. Other thing, we do not know the duration of immunity. Although the Austria study published in New England Journal of Medicine have said that in 90% of patients, the immunity lasts for a period of at least 210 days, that is 7 months after the infection. But it is also known that after 3 months, even after COVID infection, the immunity starts waning off. So therefore, we are advising that all patients who have had COVID 6 weeks later, if they get a chance, they should be vaccinated. So summarizing your answer to your question, the main cause of resurgence of COVID is lack of immune population and lack of COVID appropriate behavior on our part. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Dr. Dhamija, what should be done? Because we know there are few centers and there are some cities in which the COVID is resurging more than other parts. What should be done, in your opinion, to stop spreading it very quickly to the whole country and to other parts of the nation?
as rightly pointed out by Dr. Khilnani, that the effect of the vaccination drive is yet to come. So obviously we are now almost 6 to 8 weeks, but it takes this much of time for the immunity to develop after the vaccination. So people, the vaccination effect will come start coming now onwards. So far the surge which we are seeing now started from Kerala about 6 weeks ago, and in this era of international travel, Kerala is a hub of 7 airports in one small state. A lot of traffic from Gulf and other countries coming to Kerala. And then it started, the positivity rate of Kerala was, in fact, 14%. I got a call from the state government in Kerala at that point of time. 14% positivity rate, they had to bring it to 5%, at least for 2 weeks, to say that things are getting better and the pandemic trajectory is moving in a favorable direction. So obviously, the travel is one thing. The opening of economy almost back to normal is another thing. The complacency on the part of the people or citizens is the third thing. All these things contribute to the surge when there is a favorable circumstance, favorable environment for the virus to infect. So what does the virus need to spread? A virus like COVID or the SARS-CoV-2, the virus needs susceptible individuals. So obviously, if somebody is susceptible, the virus will get into that and spread, and then that person will spread to another one, or not what we call it, a one or two or three or whatever R naught is. So if the susceptible number of susceptible individuals are less, then only this will become, will be able to control the pandemic. So having said that, the concept of herd immunity, what we call 60 to 70% of the people being protected, means that the virus will not find enough individuals who are susceptible. So that way, these 70% people will protect the remaining 30% people also by not spreading, because they will not be infected and they are immune or protected. So that is the concept of herd immunity, that a cluster of immunized people will protect the unimmunized or unprotected people also. So same thing goes for the other vaccination programs, whether it is polio or other thing. So we need to focus on this protection of the individual so that the virus does not get susceptible population for infection, and the virus automatically will die upon its own life. So obviously we need to protect that one. And second thing is, till that time we reach that figure, whether by vaccination or by natural infections, till that time people need to be very, very vigilant, whether by enforcement by the state authorities or by the citizen responsibilities. Responsible citizenship, what we call is Jan Bhagidari, which we have been advocating since right in the beginning. It is the part of the citizens to participate and to see their responsibility that they are not infected by using appropriate behaviors, public health measures, whatever we call the three major ones, sanitizing, the masking and the distancing. On top of that, there is a fourth and fifth one also. The fourth one is, if you are sick, do not go out. Avoid crowds. That is the fourth one. And fifth one is, we need the change in behavior. I know it's human nature not to change the behavior. If you want to move from your house to another house, or shifting of the house, you will resist it. That everything is fine, your maid is fine, your school is there, market is there, your workplace is near. So you try to stay in that place and try to resist unless it is very, very important or very crucial. But once you change the house, within 3 months, everything becomes same for the new house also. So this behavioral changes bring in the population, that you need to change your behavior. You need to wear the mask not only for yourself and for the others also. You need to vaccinate yourself for your life, saving your own life, but also to prevent the society and prevent your near and dear ones and your family. So that change in behavior is required. That is a must, and that can only come by educating masses. It cannot come through the force from the public or state authorities. So we need to inculcate this habit of changing the behavior, and that one of the measures is your webinars and things like that, which are happening in media and in newspapers and webinars and social organizations, people's movement, RWAs, all these, efforts are aimed at preventing the infection and changing the behavior of the people. So these measures can only be applied when people realize that it is very, very effective, the time tested, whether it is the first pandemic of 1916 or the second pandemic or the third pandemic of smallpox. All these things which you are saying is science based on science. It is not that they are without the facts or evidence. There has been enough research on the method of masking, how the mask works, whether it is electrostatic charging or 3-layer or it is N95 or it is 2-layer cloth mask, whether it is required for the healthcare of professionals, which kind of mask is required for the general public. So there is very large amount of evidence in literature and science about the distancing, whether it was the SARS pandemic of 2003 or the MERS of 2013, or the people traveling by air infecting in the planes. So there is plethora, or there is also distancing experiments in the military. There is experiments in the children having meningoencephalitis sitting together. So all these have pointed out very effective public health measures which you are talking about. We should not be complacent, and till places like Maharashtra or Delhi, where a lot of human traffic obviously predisposes and gives virus a chance to infect large number of people in a short period of time. So these two things go hand in hand with the vaccination, in addition to COVID appropriate behavior. So that these two things we need to emphasize. And my effort has been like this only for very, very long time. And I think people are COVID fatigue, or people are getting complacent, lowering their guard. So we need to re-emphasize again and again the same thing.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Dr. Rahat, I'd like to come to you and ask you, we are getting questions from audience also, and in general, people ask me also this question: what are the precautions they should take before going for vaccination and after taking the vaccine?
I think precautions are very few. It's already been discussed by our panelists that unless and until you have a very severe reaction, allergic reaction, there is no as such contraindication for the vaccine. So I think the most important thing is that everybody should try and have every near and dear relatives and the close one vaccinated. Like as soon as I had my vaccination, I have got a father who is 85-year-old and mother 82-year-old. Both of them, as soon as vaccination started, both of them had their vaccine. And they also didn't have any much reaction to the vaccine. My mom, she had a mild fever, very, very mild, which was she had to take just one paracetamol and it just was clear. So I think what we need to do is make the population around us aware of it. And I must say that, I'm really, really thankful to the government that they have given a vaccination in the private healthcare at a very reasonable cost. You can imagine it's a cost of $3 in a private hospital, which is about 250 rupees. And when you compare to America, Pfizer, they are selling for $33, which is 10 times the more the cost in India. So obviously, when everybody is doing so much as a public, we have a responsibility as well, to make sure that we need to, take care of this corona. And regarding the number which are increasing in various states, I think we need to, take a firm effect on it, so that we have a vaccination. We need to increase the diagnosis. We need to have the contact tracing. We need to have a zero surveillance. We need to have a data analysis. We need to have a modeling, forecasting, and communication. We need to be in something like a war front in these, few states which have been mentioned: Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Gujarat, where the number are increasing. We don't want to have the second wave, which is going to, take us again back to 90,000 cases in India, which was nearly a peak in the first wave. So, these are the things we need to do, so that even when we are moving to the second wave is flatter and it doesn't go high up.
Thank you, sir. That is really, really true. The experience of vaccination has been very good with all of us. And I would like to reinforce and reiterate, the same was with my parents also. They are above 80 years. and they also took the vaccine at the first opportunity, and they didn't have virtually any problems. They also had to take one tablet of paracetamol and nothing else. So vaccination is a very good experience even for the elderly, and there are no problems literally. Dr. Khilani sir, I would like to come to you and ask you. Now we all know that there are two vaccines being given in our country as of yet. A lot of times people call and ask, Dr. Saab, kaun si vaccine le, which is better, kya fark hai? So what would you like to say about this, sir?
So, Dr. Kesari, there was a problem. There was not a problem, but there was a problem of perception about Covaxin, which is made in India. And I always say we grew up with the mindset that whatever comes from abroad is better and whatever made in India is somewhat inferior. पता नहीं मिलावट होती है क्या होता है, you know. And when we were children, anything brought from outside was gold. But things have changed. India has changed. Today, India is the largest manufacturer of vaccine. 2 out of 3 children born in India get some kind of Indian vaccine. So we need to have confidence in our own manufacturer and the scientists. That is one. Second is, this was also because by the time the vaccination drive started, the phase 3 trial data of Covaxin were not yet made public. With the result that it was considered under trial mode, and there was a 3-page pro forma consent form which a person has to sign, and which had so many things which were, I would not agree with that, but when person has to sign, an educated person reads through it, he is likely to be skeptical and come back saying that I don't want it, and this actually happened. Now, as far as the safety of Covaxin is concerned, phase 1 trial, which happened in 375 individuals, it clearly showed that it is remarkably safe, and I've already said only 2 to 5% of people get headache and myalgia and need not recite that. Efficacy data in the mice and also in the monkeys was also done. By doing why I'm telling you, people want evidence. What they did that after vaccinating these monkeys with different dosages, they actually instilled virus into their nose and mouth, and then subjected them to autopsy, and found that those who were vaccinated did not develop pneumonia. Those monkeys which were not vaccinated developed pneumonia. So efficacy and safety data were so well proven in the experimental setup, and this was published in the journal Lancet, one of the best journals. Now the phase 3 trial, then the efficacy part initially was said to be 60% for the Covaxin. That was based on the phase 2 trial. The phase 3 trial data have come only 10 days back, which has been made public, which has shown an efficacy of 80%. Now people keep wondering as to what is this 80%. Now if the 10 people get vaccinated and 10 people don't get vaccinated, and in the vaccinated people 1% gets COVID, and in non-vaccinated people 9 get COVID, that 9 minus 1 upon 9 into 100 is taken as percentage. But that's only the percentage. What has internationally been shown among the various trials, be it US or Moderna or Pfizer or other trials, that when they followed these patients, people in the vaccinated group, when the people get COVID, it is more often than not is an asymptomatic COVID and the mild illness. So even if the people who fall into the 20% group where they actually get COVID, it should not be taken as failure of the vaccination, because this vaccination is always a very, very mild infection. So to my mind, the efficacy of vaccine is much more than publicized, more than 80%, because if a person gets a mild illness, it doesn't matter. What matters whether he goes into the ICU or dies. So that way, Covaxin has now proven. Now it has been taken off the trial mode. So, and as far as the word of emergency authorization is concerned, the emergency authorization is for every vaccine, whether it's Covishield or Covaxin or Moderna. None of the vaccine is has a regular authorization, which takes about 10 years. So, in view of the pandemic, this authorization was given, and it should be taken. Through you, I want to tell the results are public and peer reviewed. So just go and get it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That's really a very reassuring news that the Covaxin has been taken off the trial mode and it can be administered and used just as the other vaccine, Covishield, and it is a homegrown vaccine, so it makes us, in fact, even more proud. Thank you, sir. Dr. Dhamija, I would like to come to you and ask you, see, the majority of patients, people above 60 that are being administered vaccine now, all of them might be having comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, or they may have had some problems of heart, coronary artery disease, or stroke, or things like that. So they are on many medications, and many of them might be taking some blood thinners also. Even now there's a lot of apprehension in people कि भाई मैं खून पतला करने की दवाई ले रहा हूँ तो मुझे लगा सकते हैं कि नहीं, because in the published precautions of both Covaxin and Covishield, in fact in the insert also it is mentioned that अगर आप blood thinner लेते हैं so you have to be careful. Please उसके बारे में कुछ बताइए.
Very pertinent question, Dr. Kesri, and this is one question we have been asked many times every day. So, number one, there is no contraindication for any antiplatelets, whether it is aspirin or clopidogrel or ticagrelor. So, the only people get scared is that it might bleed at the site of injection because it's an intravascular injection. But antiplatelet is not a it's a big issue at all, and it is absolutely safe even if you are having a antiplatelet. And people are having underlying coronary artery disease or cerebrovascular disease or peripheral vascular disease for which antiplatelets are very important. And we are not advocating to stop for a few days or whatever it is. You just take your normal dose. The day before, take your healthy diet, have a balanced diet, take your adequate sleep, and go for the vaccination. The second issue is the anticoagulants, which are warfarin or the novel anticoagulants, the Devigator, other things which have come up there, for which you get INR and other things. So if you are getting anticoagulants, there is a protocol for that, depending upon your INR. And if you have had your INR recently, you on that value, the doctor on duty will decide. And there is a set protocol which has been given. So there is nothing to worry at all. If you're on anticoagulants, your INR within range and it's not outward or way out, obviously there is nothing to worry at all. So even if you have comorbid conditions, even if you are antiplatelets, there is no issue at all. Go and get yourself vaccinated. Don't get scared at all. Regarding the comorbid conditions and medications which you are getting it. So I would suggest through you to all your attendees and viewers that please tell your condition and your drugs to the doctor who certifies your comorbid conditions. Always tell, for example, in my practice in the hospital, there are a lot of epilepsy patients. And the seizure threshold goes down when you have fever. So obviously, when you get a vaccination and you get a mild fever, the chances of having a seizure becomes a little more than the normal. So obviously, you need to be careful and take paracetamol in advance so that you don't have mild fever if you are getting anti-epileptic drugs. Similarly, the other comorbid conditions, you need to tell the doctor or your treating clinician that you have this much of this is your illness and this is your medication. So these are the only things. Other thing apart from that, the major history of major anaphylaxis is the only one which we have been highlighting, either to food or to any drugs. That is the only problem with you have to be cautious, and you should get it in a bigger hospital where you have a setup for the resuscitation. That's what is only required. Otherwise, any illness, any comorbid condition, whether you are diabetic or you are hypertensive or you are having COPD or any other things, you are on treatment. So you go and get a vaccination. In fact, you are at more risk of getting infection and getting severe in COVID infection. So it has been seen people with these conditions tend to get more often sick or more often serious COVID-19, go into the ICU and on the ventilator. So obviously for them it is more important to be protected, and they should always think about going to vaccination center and get it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Rawat sir, दो चीजें आप बताइए. एक तो ऐसा, can we give a general recommendation from this forum here कि people, let's say above 60, can take a tablet of paracetamol before going to the vaccination center, so that would avoid them getting fever or pain normalized? Can we do that?
I think it depends from patient to patient. I think normally patient can have a paracetamol, but then also fever will be seen in about 10 or 20% of the patient. So that, I think best thing is to keep a paracetamol with you. And if you start having a fever, that is the time have it. Otherwise, there is no point. Suppose if you are not going to have a fever, then there is no point having a paracetamol.
Okay. और एक चीज और होती है सर, many people may not be able to for some reason go exactly on that date or for taking the second dose, because now since more and more, almost 9 lakh people are being vaccinated every day, so it may not be able for them to take exactly on that date. They might get delayed for 1 day, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So what to do in that case? क्या suggest करेंगे sir?
I think Dr. Kesri, there has been quite a few studies from UK where they have said that, even if you delay for 3 months, it doesn't make any difference. And I think there has been a couple of studies which have said that, if you delay it for 3 months, efficacy is slightly better. So that, if it is delayed by few days, few weeks, even up to a month or two, it doesn't make any difference. The most important thing is take your first vaccine, and the second vaccine, ideally take it whenever it's recommended. But even if you are delayed by few days or few weeks, please take your second dose.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Dhamija, I would like to come with the same question almost similarly to you, because you've got this question from number of viewers. There are vaccines in UK for the same vaccine. There's recommendation of taking the second dose after 2 months or 45 days. What is your opinion on this?
So the protocol under which the bridging trial was done for Covishield and the phase 2 and phase 3 trial, and the emergency approval has been given with a set time window of 4 to 6 weeks between first and second dose. So ideally you should get it whenever your 4 weeks are completed. But somehow if you're delayed for a few days, doesn't matter, a big difference. Go and get it done as quickly as possible after your window period. So 4 to 6 weeks is the ideal time to get the second dose. So that is our protocol that was given to all the hospitals when it was approved for emergency authorization. So obviously we need to follow that protocol. Our own protocol, it might be a different scenario in UK. I know there are 12 weeks and there's a debate going on whether to vaccinate all the population by first dose only and then go for the second dose. So we are doing what is best for us, and the protocol is to get the second dose between 4 to 6 weeks. So 4 weeks is the time when your turn should come and you should go it. But somehow if you're delayed by a couple of days or few days, then you go and get it done as and when possible.
I think this is a very, very reassuring statement by our esteemed panelists कि अगर किसी वजह से आपकी second dose मिस हो जाती है, आप उस दिन नहीं जा पाते, आप कुछ दिन बाद जाते हैं, यहाँ तक कि 1 महीने बाद भी जाते हैं, तो भी आप वो second dose जरूर लीजिए, उसको मिस मत करिए. You must take the second dose as well to reinforce your immunity. Dr. Khilani sir, I would like to come to you with this question. There are patients who have very severe allergy, जिनको बहुत severe allergic reaction होते हैं, asthma होता है, skin में reaction होते हैं. So probably such patients are more susceptible to the severe complications of COVID-19. But from what we read in media and the recommendations, people with such illnesses should not टेक द कोविड वैक्सीन। सो एक तो इनके बारे में हमें एनलाइटन करिए। दूसरा एक कंडीशन है प्रेगनेंसी, इसके बारे में अभी कोई चर्चा नहीं है कि प्रेग्नेंट लेडीज शुड टेक वैक्सीन और नॉट। And how about children? Because soon the schools are going to open. So do they also require vaccination? So please tell us about these important
डॉक्टर
aspects.
केसरी ऐसा नहीं है कि चर्चा नहीं है, चर्चा बहुत सारी है, प्रेगनेंसी के बारे में भी है। तो सबसे
जी।
पहली बात तो ये है कि आप सीनियर फिजिशियन है, तो हमें पता है कि 40%, 40% adults have allergic rhinitis, 5 to 10% people have asthma. That's a tendency. That's a large group of people who have allergic tendency. And there is not a person who doesn't have an allergy. I'm not talking about allergy to each other. Some substance you may be allergic to. Skin allergies are so common. So the recommendation is that patient who with nasal allergy, with asthma, with eczema or some kind of allergic disorder, it is not a contraindication to COVID vaccine. That has been very clear. Only people who have had anaphylaxis, and anaphylaxis is a life-threatening episode where the person requires adrenaline and steroids, goes to the emergency, may goes to the ICU. These are the people who have to be careful. Now, we all get questions. I have had allergy to penicillin, I have got allergy to sulfa. Anybody who has had anaphylaxis to any kind of vaccine must report to the vaccination center that it's not the virus or killed virus which causes allergy, it is the conduit, it is the medium in which it is gel or whatever the content of this is. So I don't want to make it complicated. The simple thing is that those with allergic rhinitis, asthma, eczema, which are common conditions, they do not have to worry, just go and get vaccine. Those who have had history of anaphylaxis should report to the center that they have had anaphylaxis, so the center would be more careful. It would be probably good if somebody has history of anaphylaxis, she should preferably get vaccinated in a hospital setting so that in any event of mishap, he can be taken care of. That's about it. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. So this is also again very reassuring क्योंकि बहुत सारे लोग हैं जिनको एलर्जी की प्रॉब्लम होती है, उनके मन में हमेशा ये सवाल होता है कि मुझे एलर्जी है, मैं वैक्सीन दूं कि नहीं। तो आप वैक्सीन ले सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर आपको बहुत सीवियर एलर्जी हुई है तो बेटर है कि आप किसी बड़े हॉस्पिटल के सेंटर में लें, जहाँ पे अगर भगवान न करे कोई रिएक्शन हो भी तो उसका भी आसानी से ख्याल रखा जा सके। Dr. Hamida, I would like to come to you and ask you about there are many people you also yourself must be treating who might be needing steroids. So ऐसे मरीज जिनको लंबे अरसे तक स्टेरॉइड लेने पड़ते हैं या ओरल या इनहेल्ड, वो भी वैक्सीन ले सकते हैं कि नहीं? उनको कोई कॉम्प्लिकेशन, कोई नुकसान तो नहीं हो सकता है इससे?
इनफैक्ट जिन लोगों को इम्यूनोस्प्रेसिव ड्रग्स चल रही हैं जिसमें स्टेरॉइड्स भी हैं और दूसरे भी हैं, वो उस लिस्ट जो कोमॉर्बिड कंडीशंस की जो लिस्ट है 20 कंडीशंस हैं, उसमें ये भी एक कंडीशन है कि they become eligible to get vaccination. So obviously when the government is saying or we are saying that these conditions, people with these conditions and more than 45 years of age should come and get the vaccination. So obviously there is no problem at all. That is why we are saying that people with these comorbid conditions should come. So anybody who is getting immunosuppression for some or the other reason, that includes steroids, doses, can get the vaccination. It's not at all a contraindication. In fact, it is useful for them because they are having a little less immunity. Many people will have a immunosuppressant drugs which can decrease the immunity. For them, the vaccine may not be 90% effective, maybe a little less effective, but even then, it is better to get the vaccination, whatever immunity they get from the vaccine. So obviously, where there are only contraindication, as Dr. Khilani told, is the severe anaphylactic reaction, and that can also be done in a big hospital, as I earlier said, in a bigger setup. It's not a contraindication, it's just a caution that people should tell the vaccination center and people should go to the bigger hospital where there are facilities for the resuscitation.
Well, that is really wonderful and very reassuring once again कि जिन लोगों को एलर्जिक बीमारियां हैं या ऐसी बीमारियां हैं जो स्टेरॉइड की गोलियां लेते हैं किसी वजह से या इम्यूनोसप्रेसेंट ड्रग्स लेते हैं, उनको भी वैक्सीन लेनी आवश्यक है और वो ले सकते हैं। बस इस बात का ख्याल रखें कि किसी बड़े से मिले। Am I right, sir? हाँ, Dr. Samitra sir, I would like to ask you one thing. Has it been showed in studies, or do we know how long does the effect of vaccine last? Any booster is required for these vaccines, let's say after completing the 2 doses of Covishield or other vaccines?
I think Dr. Kechri, I think we are still evolving around COVID. So that thing is very difficult to predict how long the immunity will last. I think that we will come to know in next couple of years that how long the immunity is lasting. Like previously, people were thinking that once they have a COVID, it's highly unlikely they will have a COVID again. But then we have seen that there has been a reinfection 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months after developing a COVID. So, but vaccine will protect it slightly more than the infection because the immunity developed is higher and the antibodies are higher when you take a vaccine, then you develop a COVID. So, what the scientific community is thinking that vaccine will last longer than the disease per se, but it's difficult to predict at the moment whether it's going to be lifelong or whether it's going to be for how long, whether it's going to be 1 year, 2 year. Like with other vaccines, some of the vaccine you might have to give after a year or two. It's not scientifically decided at the moment, but at the moment it's something like you take a vaccine, hopefully it will cover you for life, but thus the it will come to know in next few years.
Can I
Okay.
add to that?
Yes, sir, please.
So the thing is, why this question comes? The vaccine may be effective for a longer time, but RNA viruses, especially including the coronavirus, are notorious for mutations. And we are getting flu vaccine every year, if not every 6 months, because flu viruses also have a lot of mutations. Now, this COVID virus has 1200 RNA has 1273 proteins. When this mutation takes place, there is some alteration in some proteins. Now, this is a new technology which Moderna and Pfizer have developed by having mRNA vaccine. They have a capability of altering the vaccine within a few days, and come out with the altered vaccine which will be effective against mutated viruses. That is the reason, as Dr. Rawat has rightly said, that we do not know. Now, like we have a southern hemisphere and northern hemisphere vaccine for influenza, I think over a period of time this vaccine will have to be will be keep changing according to the mutations, like we do for influenza vaccine all the time. So therefore, unless the SARS-1 went away, Ebola went away, we don't know how it went away and why COVID spread so much. If I could be said as a pessimist or whatever, that this vaccination program will have to be on a long-term basis. A lot of things are coming. The Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine is coming. DNA vaccine is coming. Nasal drop vaccine is coming. So the future is bright. Future is bright because a lot of variety of vaccines would come with proper studies. This was emergency. Now it will be proper vaccination program will come, and we'll able to have vaccine which we'll know the efficacy will be much more. I'm not confusing you, but I am clarifying that one, as Dr. Rawat said, we do not know how frequently it will have to be repeated, but I'm sure it will require a repetition 6 to 12 months after the first vaccination, depending upon the antibody status and antigenic drift which occurs in the virus. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Dr.
Yes.
Kechri, I fully agree with Dr. Khilnani. At the moment, we don't know. Like I told you, every year I used to receive a flu jab, which will cover the new mutation as well. This we will
Yes.
come in due course of time, whether we need to have a vaccination once in a year, or whether it's last lifelong, we will come to know. But that
Thank you, sir.
should not stop us from having a vaccine.
But
Please.
also I would like to say, as a part of the discussion, flu vaccine at best is 59% effective. But flu, influenza fortunately is not as lethal as COVID. So therefore, even if we have effective vaccination program, that COVID appropriate behavior will have to be continued at least till end of 2021. That's what my thought process is.
So this is going to be the last question which I'm going to ask in this program. When do you foresee the end of COVID? Then we are going to discuss this in detail.
Ask Dr. Dhamija and Dr. Rawat, I don't know.
So let me start by saying
Yes.
that we have learned a lot about coronavirus in last 15 months. So January 10th was a day when China, described the genomic sequence of the corona SARS-CoV-2, and it was shared with all the stakeholders all over the world. That was very good thing which they did it, and the vaccine started developing within few days after that. So the Pfizer and Moderna actually came up with the vaccine within 1 month of that sharing of the genomic sequence. And similarly in India also, in the strictest lockdown in the month of April, the NIA Pune transported this strain which was prevalent in India to Hyderabad for this Covaxin or Bharat Biotech facility for the killed virus technology to develop the Covaxin vaccine. On this note only, we have also seen and we are reading every day that newer and newer vaccines are coming up. The mRNA platform, which took 10 years to build this platform, was ready by the time this COVID came, fortunately. And both the manufacturers, Moderna, which is NIH actually sponsored the vaccine, and the Pfizer used that. The Indian scenario, the Zydus Cadila is also coming up with a DNA vaccine. So that will be another technology. And they're coming also with the skin patch and the nasal vaccine. So we are seeing a lot of new vaccines coming up. The Johnson & Johnson has already been cleared by US FDA for single dose, and the 2 doses trial is going on. So that is same platform with the AstraZeneca or the Covishield is being used for the vector viral platform, the adenovirus induced the technology. So there are a lot of other multiple vaccines will be available in next 6 months. That's one thing which will define the course of COVID-19 pandemic in next few months or next coming months. Which your question is, how long will it last? So obviously it all depends upon the people who get vaccination. I believe that majority of the people will get vaccination in next 12 months, and the vaccine for all will be available very, very soon. It will not be just the rollout phases 1, 2, 3. It will be depending upon the number of doses available. Government will make it available to all of us, including the pregnant women and children, once their data comes. So we don't have a data about pregnant women and the children less than 18 years, but the trials are going on. In the next few months, we will get the data, and the rollout will start for these population also. The pandemic will depend upon many factors. Of course, the variants, the vaccines, the citizens' participation. All these things will come up, and obviously, I hope that by the end of 2021, we will have a better year coming up in 2022. So that will be my projection.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Lani, sir.
And just as a confidence building measure, reviewing the international guidelines, the CDC has already issued guidelines. If the 2 people are vaccinated and 2 weeks have passed by after the second vaccination, they can sit and have lunch together, talk together without a mask. This is not, this is a serious thing. That means they have so much confidence in their vaccination that, other thing which they have said that, about the quarantine. If the person is vaccinated and 2 weeks have passed by after second vaccination, and if he gets exposed to a patient, this is about healthcare workers, he need not be quarantined. So CDC doesn't give guidelines very easily. You know, they go always by evidence. Their public health systems are amazing. That's something, you know, that attests the fact that vaccination is the solution. And as Dr. Rawat pointed out, India is going with great guns, despite the limitations of, you know, distance and districts, sub-districts, PHC, sub-centers. I don't know whether you people have gone. I have gone to the sub-center on a bicycle because there were no roads. But still, the government of India is going ahead and, you know, pledging to vaccinate all people. If we achieve that by July or August, and if we are able to vaccinate 50 crore of people, 60 crore of people, I think 2022 will be a normal life. But Dr. Kesari, I'll have to take a leave from you. So thank you so much, Dr. Rawat and Dr. Dhamija. I've got a call to, you know, attend to someone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. On behalf of SOCHM and Chanel Rajputji, I would like to thank you for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rawat.
So,
thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just continue our discussion. We are getting this one question again and again from our viewers. That is about vaccination during pregnancy. So please enlighten us. So is it required for pregnant women, first of all, yes or no? Dr. Rawat, would you like to share something?
I'm not a gynecologist, so I won't be very.
I know, I understand that.
I know some of the ladies who were COVID positive, they had a delivery and there was no problem at all. So I think if you are pregnant, best thing is to consult your gynecologist and they will do the thorough checkup of yours and then they will guide you accordingly.
Okay, Dr. Dhamija, would you like to add something?
So as of now, we do not have data about the vaccination on pregnant women. So far, all the trials which have been published did not include the children less than 18 years or the pregnant women. So the trials are going on. At this stage, I would not recommend pregnant women to get vaccination till the guidelines comes or the data comes and it is in the public domain. Similarly for children also, both ways. But having said that, I just want to tell you something more than that. So last 12 months, there's a lot of data about pregnancy, COVID, in pregnancy, deliveries and lactation. So one thing is very clear, there is no problem in the lactation, even if the mother is COVID positive. So we should not deprive the child or the infant or the neonate from the breastfeeding. That first few hours after the birth or first day of the birth is very, very important as colostrum or the breastfeeding. So even if the mother is COVID positive and she adapts the appropriate behavior like masking, there is no problem in breastfeeding the child. That is very, very clear. And we must tell our masses that breastfeeding should be recommended and should be given to the child even if the mother is positive. That's number one. That's the message which I want to give it. The second thing is the women. Now, of course, we are having a little less COVID patients who are pregnant. But having said that, the delivery is also not a problem. There is normal delivery. There is no need for any surgical intervention or any elective surgeries for the pregnant women. So, the only thing is that you need to be adopting the normal COVID appropriate behavior in the OT, in the labor room, in the wards, and around you as a patient. So obviously, apart from the vaccine, all other things are safe during childbirth and during lactation.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rawat, I'd like to ask you, you must be having a lot of patients with cancers, GI cancer especially, and on anti-cancer therapy or awaiting surgery. So in such patients also, you recommend taking vaccination, because I think that would apply to a whole spectrum of patients with tumors and cancers.
Absolutely, Dr. Kesari. They are high risk. So, you definitely recommend them, to have a vaccine. And during the COVID time, we have done lots and lots of surgery on cancer patients. Even when there was a lockdown, we carried on doing the surgery on cancer patients who were coming with symptoms of bleeding and the obstruction. So,
Yes.
and we did the full sort of protection, universal protection, wore the proper mask, wore the proper PPE kit, but we didn't stop operating patients because our is a tertiary care center and people came from all around India, and we carried on doing the surgery.
Thank you so much. We have earlier also had a wonderful discussion about you during, this was during the peak of the COVID. I guess that you had been carrying on surgeries on such patients even at that time. So that is really great and wonderful. And only thanks to such dedicated specialists and doctors like you that our patients and the citizens of our country could undergo these difficult times and yet survive through such great medical difficulties that we had. Dr. Dhamija, I'd like to come to you again, and I would like to ask you, is there any category of patients जिसमें हम कहें कि भाई आप वैक्सीन मत लगाओ? ऐसे कुछ लोग हैं क्या? क्योंकि अभी हमने जितना भी डिस्कशन किया है, we had talked about allergies, we had even talked about severe allergies where anaphylaxis might have been there. We have talked about patients taking steroids. Now we have also discussed about patients on cancer therapy undergoing surgeries. So जो भी जिसकी भी हमारी चर्चा हुई है, जो भी ऐसे जैसे आपने बताया जो हाइपरटेंसिव पेशेंट्स हैं, सीएडी पेशेंट्स हैं, डायबिटिक पेशेंट्स हैं, जो और दवाइयां ले रहे हैं, ये सब लोग भी वैक्सीन लगा, तो कोई ऐसा कंटिजेंट है पेशेंट्स का कि जिनको हम कहें कि नहीं आप वैक्सीन ना लगाएं?
आज की तारीख में तो यही कहेंगे कि प्रेग्नेंट लेडीज और चिल्ड्रन लेस देन 18 इयर्स वो अभी रिकमेंडेड नहीं है। आई विल नॉट से कि वो नहीं लगवाएं, कंट्राइंडिकेटेड है, नहीं लगवा सकते हैं, अभी जो है रिकमेंडेड नहीं है। और वो रोल आउट जो फेजेज में हमारा रोल आउट हुआ है उसमें इंक्लूडेड भी नहीं है। तो गवर्नमेंट की गाइडलाइंस के हिसाब से अभी प्रेग्नेंट लेडीज और बच्चों को अभी इंजेक्शन नहीं लगेगा। उसके बाद अगर सीवियर एनाफाइलैक्सिस है तो आप जो है बड़े हॉस्पिटल्स में लगवाएं। और अगर आप एंटी कोगुलेंट्स ले रहे हैं, जो वारफरीन और इसकी क्लास के ड्रग्स हैं, उसमें अगर आपका आईएनआर 7 या 8 या उससे ज्यादा है, तब आपको वेट करनी पड़ेगी जब तक कि आपका आईएनआर वापस जो है बिटवीन 1 and 2 ना हो जाए, या आपका थेरेप्यूटिक रेंज में ना आ जाए, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन योर कंडीशन फॉर विच यू आर गेटिंग द एंटीकोगुलेंट। इसके अलावा किसी और उसमें नहीं भी कोई कंट्राइंडिकेशन नहीं है। जितना ज्यादा लोगों को वैक्सीन लगेगा उतनी सोसाइटी में बेनिफिट होगा, उतनी जल्दी पैंडेमिक को हम जो है खत्म करेंगे। और सभी ग्रुप्स में जब जब आपका नंबर आता है तब तक आपको वैक्सीनेशन पे जाना चाहिए। और अगर आपको कोई कंडीशन है या मेडिकल कंडीशन है या आपका इलाज चल रहा है तो आपको वो पेपर साथ लेके जाएं, वो ड्रग्स की लिस्ट साथ लेके जाएं और अपने जो डॉक्टर्स हैं उनको बताएं कि ये चीजें जो है मेरे साथ हैं, और उसमें दे विल बी लिटिल मोर एक्स्ट्रा केयरफुल। इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि इंजेक्शन नहीं लगाएंगे, बट दे विल हैव लिटिल मोर केयर।
ओके, थैंक यू सर। डॉक्टर रावत, हाउ डू यू फोरसी, आप कौन सी और वैक्सीन अभी इंडिया में आने वाली है? कैन यू शेयर समथिंग अबाउट दैट?
आई थिंक बहुत सारा वैक्सीन डेवलप हो रहा है, जैसे कि डॉक्टर खिलनानी ने भी बताया था, जाइडेक्स कैडिला वाले हैं, दे आर कमिंग आउट विद द वैक्सीन, and I think there is a Pune based company which is coordinating with Seattle based, which is coming out with SCOG-19, that is going to be the first messenger RNA vaccine in India, same as Pfizer and Moderna. So they are collaborating with Seattle based company and coming up with the first messenger RNA vaccine in India. And there is a nasal vaccine which has already been talked about. Then I think Reddy Lab is coming with Sputnik. So that is another one. A lot of vaccines are coming. So I think last night also, I think when there is a quad meeting of Prime Minister with the Prime Minister of Japan and Australia and the President of USA, there also, I think Pfizer and Moderna might, have a vaccine development center in India. So that is what was also talked about. So I think India, as we all know, is the largest vaccine producer with the Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech and Zydex Cadila and Reddy Lab taking a lead. I think the vaccine future in India is bright, and as Prime Minister Modi is saying, that we will put our role, Indian role, in providing as many vaccine as possible to the world.
That is really wonderful. Thank you, sir. Sir, Dr. Mija, आप कुछ कहना चाहते थे?
Since we are speaking on a SHM platform, I just thought it's pertinent to bring out the issue of WTO and the intellectual property rights and the patents. So India has already moved to WTO in October actually to waive off the patent for Pfizer and the other companies so that India can manufacture these vaccines. So far, it has not come through, but given the humanitarian crisis, the way COVID-19 has fanned out across the globe, I think this is a time when these things should be discussed so that there is no patent and anybody who can manufacture vaccine, like India, a hub of vaccine manufacturing country, we should be able to manufacture. And I'm sure that at some stage, India would be producing Pfizer and the Moderna or the other messenger RNA vaccines here only, locally also. I'm aware that the Pfizer company was trying to, enter into Indian market, and maybe they are trying to contact the other manufacturers in India to start manufacturing the Pfizer and also the Moderna vaccine and the other vaccine which have a comfortable temperature protocol for us or the requirement in Indian conditions. So time will come when these vaccines will also come and we will have a bouquet of vaccines in India and people can choose and pick and choose. The wider availability of vaccine is one issue which we are all working. And on top of that, India is also projecting as a vaccine diplomacy. So through the WHO, Gavi and COVAX, these are the mechanisms through which the India has also pledged the vaccines would be supplied to 92 countries. It has also supplied to so many countries. India is a signatory and Prime Minister has also pledged $15 billion US dollars way back in July that India would be contributing to the vaccine production and the development and deployment across the country which have low and middle income countries which cannot afford to produce, manufacture or they're finding difficulty in vaccinating people. This is a pandemic. So even if the one country is not out of the pandemic, it will spread to the disease to the whole of the world. So it is a global disease. The virus does not recognize the borders. It does not respect the borders. Similarly, the response to this pandemic should also be global. And India has taken a lead in this, and we are proud for that. For being a citizen of this country, and we are able to help the global cause for the pandemic eradication.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Rawat, आखिरी में आपसे सवाल, आपको लगता है वो दिन आएगा जब हम मास्क उतार के आराम से पार्क में जा सकेंगे, मॉल में जा सकेंगे, पिक्चर देख सकेंगे? ऐसा दिन आएगा भी कि नहीं?
आई थिंक वो दिन आएगा, जल्दी आएगा। वो टाइम फ्रेम बता पाना बड़ा मुश्किल होगा। एंड मैं आपको अपना एक्सपीरियंस बताता हूं। जब मैं इंग्लैंड में था और जब सार्स वायरस आया था, एंड हम लोग तो बिना मास्क के जाते थे, ट्रैवल करते थे फ्लाइट में, और जितने लोग चाइना, हांगकांग और जापान वाले होते थे, वो 2-3 साल तक, अगर आपने भी देखा होगा, अगर आपने इंटरनेशनल फ्लाइट उस टाइम ली होगी, जितने भी चाइनीज, हांगकांग और जापान वाले थे, वो हर समय 2-3 साल तक मास्क पहने रहे थे। तो लेकिन सार्स वाज मोर्टेलिटी रेट वाज हायर, ट्रांसमिशन रेट वाज लेस। कोविड में मोर्टेलिटी रेट इज लेस बट ट्रांसमिशन इज हाई। सो आई थिंक जैसा कि आपका स्पेनिश फ्लू में हुआ था कि 2-3 साल तक इफेक्ट रहता है, अभी 1.5 साल हो गया है हमारा। मेरे ख्याल से एंड ऑफ 2021 एंड 22 में जाके हम लोगों को मालूम चलेगा, वी विल बी मोर वाइजर। मेरा ये है इस साल के एंड तक, you know, even if you have a vaccine, have a good hand hygiene, good respiratory hygiene, जिससे कि आप मास्क पहने, and good social distancing. And जैसे कि आपने हमारे कोलीग ने और बताया था कि there is going to be a vaccine passport which Israel has already started. So that vaccine passport, it is now moving towards Europe and America. In Europe, they are thinking about having a vaccine passport कि जिनको already vaccine लग चुकी है, 2 वीक हो चुके हैं, पासपोर्ट पे एक स्टैंप लग जाएगी कि they have been vaccinated, so that they can travel freely. और जो आप कह रहे थे मूवी जा पाएंगे, पार्क में जा पाएंगे, तो जिनको वैक्सीन लग गई है, जिनके पास डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है, तो हो सकता है मूवी के पहले भी अगर आपको वैक्सीन लग गई है, आप फ्रीली जाके आप मूवीज देख सकते हैं। लेकिन जब तक ये होता है, तब तक आपको तीनों चीजें जो मैंने बोला है, गुड हैंड हाइजीन, गुड रेस्पिरेटरी हाइजीन एंड गुड सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग एंड हाइजीन बरकरार रखना है।
Thank you so much, sir. That was very reassuring, very encouraging, and once again asserting about the hand hygiene, about the use of face mask and respiratory hygiene जो हमेशा बरकरार रखनी है. Dr. Dhamija, would you like to add something to this closing remark?
Yes, I think this time of the pandemic trajectory, it is very, very important to stay safe, stay yourself protected by vaccinating and by adopting COVID appropriate behavior. Not only it's for us, we also have a duty to educate others and to tell the others what is their responsibility. If you see somebody in the flight not wearing a mask, it is your duty to tell him. It is not only for him, but for me also. Obviously, we need to adhere to the COVID appropriate behavior the best way we can. That is the only way to get out of the pandemic, along with the vaccine.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we had a very interesting and a very, very useful discussion today. And I think I would like to sum up the whole discussion in one line, that everyone should take vaccine. जिसको भी वैक्सीन लगाई जा रही है, जिसको भी गवर्नमेंट एलिजिबल समझती है, जिसके लिए भी वैक्सीनेशन ओपन है, सबको वैक्सीन लेनी चाहिए। सबको वैक्सीन के दोनों डोज लेनी चाहिए। अगर किसी वजह से एक डोज, सेकंड डोज मिस भी हो जाती है, तो थोड़े दिनों बाद ले लें जब आप ले सकते हैं। और जिसको ब्लड प्रेशर है, डायबिटीज है, हार्ट की बीमारी है, वो भी ले सकते हैं। जिनको एलर्जीज हैं, जिनको अस्थमा है, वो भी ले सकते हैं। उनको लेना बहुत जरूरी है। जो और दूसरी बीमारियों के इलाज के लिए दवाइयां ले रहे हैं, जैसे स्टेरॉइड ले रहे हैं, उनको भी लेना चाहिए, बहुत जरूरी है। जिनका कैंसर का ट्रीटमेंट चल रहा है, उनको भी लेना जरूरी है। तो लिटरली हर तरह के व्यक्ति जिनको कोई भी नुकसान हो सकता है, उनको अपना बचाव करने के लिए वैक्सीन लेना जरूरी है। और वैक्सीन लेने के बाद भी हमें अपना और दूसरों का बचाव करना है, एहतियात बरतनी है, मास्क पहन के रखना है, हैंड हाइजीन रखना है, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग मेंटेन करके रखना है। Thank you so much to all our esteemed panelists, to Dr. Soumitra Rawat, to Dr. Professor Dhamija, and to Dr. G.C. Khilnani, who is not here. आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
And thank you, Dr. Kesri, for moderating it very well. And it was all the practical questions. And I thank ASSOCHAM for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Sir, Dr. Rawat. उनसे पूछना था ताऊ जी के साथ के पढ़ेंगे।